Holbrook Travel is pleased to bring you this webinar, The Amazing Migration of Monarch Butterflies and Upcoming Expeditions to Visit Their Overwintering Sites. Our guest speakers today are Dr. Akito Kawahara and Dr. Vaughn Shirey, both of the McGuire Center for Lepidoptera and Biodiversity at the Florida Museum of Natural History. During the presentation, we'll learn a little more about the biology of the monarch butterfly and about its remarkable annual journey between North America and the overwintering sites in Mexico. We'll hear about the migration's ecological significance, including the current research on how climate change is influencing this phenomenon. Our speakers are also both hosting upcoming travel expeditions to the monarch's overwintering sites in Mexico, and so they'll talk a little bit more about what that experience is like and what to expect for those of you who may already be planning to join them or are interested in learning more. And then we'll have time at the end for Q&A. We also have Holbrook travel specialist Lisa Palmisi-Graubard on hand to answer any questions as well. So please submit any questions you have through that Q&A function on your toolbar, and we'll share those with our presenters at the end. And lastly, before I hand it over to our speakers, I'd also like to highlight that these trips to view the monarchs hold special meaning for us here at Holbrook. We've been partnering with the museum to offer monarch trips for more than 10 years, but our relationship with the museum goes back much further through our connection with the late Dr. Thomas Emmel, seen there on the right on horseback. Dr. Emmel was a world-renowned lepidopterist and the founding director of the McGuire Center and the Butterfly Rainforest at the Florida Museum. For many years, Dr. Emmel collaborated with our company's founder, Mrs. Giovanna Holbrook, to lead and develop numerous natural history and Lepidoptera trips. So to be able to carry forward that legacy means a lot to us here at Holbrook. So on that note, I'm happy to welcome our presenters, Akito and Vaughn. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start to share my screen now. Let's see. Can everybody see this? Okay, great.
Looks good.
So we're gonna Vaughn Shirey, who's here, and myself, we're gonna talk a little bit about this the amazing migration of monarch butterflies and this trip that we're going to be leading, or these two trips that we're going to be leading in the spring. And we'll give you a little bit of overview about the butterflies and what to expect, and also kind of answer your questions at the end as it was just mentioned. Okay, so let's get started. This is just a little background about myself. I thought it'd be good to just introduce both of us. So first of all, I've been the director of the McGuire Center here in Gainesville, Florida, for the last couple of years. I arrived in Gainesville in 2011. So I've been in Florida for quite a long time now, but I'm originally from New York City. So I grew up in New York, and I was raised in Tokyo, Japan, where I got really interested in insects and butterflies and moths. And so my kind of passion comes from Japan in terms of insects and butterflies. I did a PhD at the University of Maryland and also did research at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Before coming here. And my lab now studies the evolution, speciation, and diversity of butterflies and moths. I'll go to the next slide. And Vaughn, maybe you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Howdy, y'all. I'm pretty new to Florida. I just got here coming up on 1 year as assistant curator at the McGuire Center, similar to Akito from the Northeast, so representing Philadelphia today. I did my PhD at Georgetown, focusing on climate change impacts on butterflies, particularly cold-adapted butterflies. And my lab is really sort of data science heavy. We like challenging large-scale historical butterfly and moth biodiversity questions, also focusing on human impacts and how humans interact with biodiversity through, a scientific lens, a policy lens, and also an artistic lens. So excited to be here chatting with you and excited to lead a trip. It will actually be my first time to the overwintering ground. So I was saying, if you want to see somebody get emotional on a trip, just sign up for mine. But pleasure being here.
Thanks, Vaughn. And I'll just mention one thing here that many of you are probably familiar, that the Florida Museum and the McGuire Center exhibits has been closed over the last several months, and we're planning to reopen again next year. We are still doing a lot of these activities. So this trip, these trips, I should say, in addition to other pop-up events that are happening in Florida, these kinds of things are still happening. So even though the museum itself might be closed and we're renovating, we're still doing a lot of these activities, and we will be reopening again next year. So a little bit of information about the trip itself. So there's two trips planned. The first one is February 7th to 12th, 2026, that's the one I'll be leading. And then the second one is going to be led by Vaughn between February 14th and 19th. And there's still, I believe, slots available. I heard earlier that a couple slots just got filled today or so. So these are going pretty fast. And we'll answer more questions about specifics of the trip as we go along in this presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the butterfly itself and what the monarch is, and kind of give you a little bit of background. And many of you may be familiar with this, but I do think it's important for all of us to kind of know what we're talking about here. So the monarch butterfly is arguably one of the most iconic and beloved insects in North America. Pretty much everybody, I think, is aware of the monarch butterfly in terms of its beauty. It's big, and as Vaughn mentioned, it's becoming more and more of a concern, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. And I should just add that a lot of the photographs in this presentation are from Jarrett Daniels, and Jarrett was one of the former directors of the museum, or the McGuire Center, and has done a lot of conservation work in Florida. So you may be familiar with the first magnitude butterfly beer events and a lot of the plant sales and things. This is all led by Jarrett's work at the McGuire Center. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jarrett for contributing some of these slides. So a little bit of background about the monarch butterfly. So the life cycle starts as an egg, and the caterpillar comes out. There's 5 or so instars, and then there's a chrysalis after the caterpillar turns into this cocoon stage or chrysalis, and then finally becomes an adult. And there's a male butterfly there, and this is a female. And the way you tell them apart is that the male has a scent organ on the hind wing, so you can actually tell. This little spot that the circle's on gives it away. This is a male butterfly, and the female on the right side of the screen does not have that. Now, monarch butterflies are red because they feed on milkweed, and milkweed plant is a chemically defended plant. So, you know, if you decided to, I don't know if you do this, but if you ate the leaf of monarch, you'd get sick, or the leaf of a milkweed plant, you'd get sick. So you don't want to do that. But the monarch butterfly has this ability to take in the chemicals of the plant and then hold it into its body, and that's why they're red. They display their chemistry. They're telling predators like birds that they're chemically defended and bad to eat, and that's why they're this color. And other species of butterflies and moths and other insects have kind of taken advantage of this, and they kind of look like them. So here's a viceroy butterfly. It's not related to the monarch, very different, but they kind of look similar. And you can actually tell the difference between viceroy because the viceroy has this very distinctive line that cuts across on the hind wing that the monarch butterfly does not have. They live in same areas. The viceroy does not migrate. And what's amazing is some monarchs have different forms. Some of them are like darker, and the ones that are darker in the places where the darker monarchs, the viceroys are also darker, and so forth. It's a really, really cool story, and a lot of interesting research has been done on this mimicry complex. But I just wanted to tell you about that because it's a unique butterfly altogether. But even more so, they're unique because they migrate. So monarch butterflies have 2 distinct populations in North America. And don't worry about the green areas here. Let's focus on the yellow portions. So in the eastern side of the United States, east of the Rockies, there's a very large population. And that is the population that goes to the overwintering grounds in Mexico. Down here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this little star down here is where the overwintering grounds is, and that's where we're going to be visiting in February. Now, there's another population that's on the west coast and west of the Rocky Mountains, and they actually migrate to the coast of California. And they don't actually, we don't think they go too much to Mexico, but they just stay in California and they go back a little bit further east in the springtime. Some monarchs actually end up going down to the Florida, tip of Florida, sort of Miami area and so forth, and some of them overwinter in that area. Now, when the spring comes, the monarch butterflies that have gone to Mexico fly back up north, and the green lines there indicate the path northward. Typically, the monarch that flies down south comes back up, but does not always make it all the way up. So they will make it halfway or so, and then they will mate and lay eggs and so forth. And then the following generation will make it further north. So if a monarch started in New York, it'd go down to Mexico, and then it will start to go up north, and then it will mate, and then another generation would make it up back there. So they don't live for a year. They typically, the longest generation is probably like 8 or 9 months or so. Now, and this is kind of what I was just talking about. There's, the fact that they're migratory, they have this winter breeding, and there's also this there's resident non-migratory butterflies as well. So there's monarchs in the Caribbean as well. There's actually monarchs in Asia as well. These guys we don't think they migrate. So, and there's also, as I mentioned before, some monarchs that are kind of different colored. There's a white monarch that's found in Hawaii. There's just really interesting things. So monarchs are not just found in North America. They're kind of found all over the world. But the fact that the ones that migrate are the really ones that we're really focusing on today. This is just a kind of a summary of where they're coming from. So the majority of the monarchs that fly to Mexico, to the breeding grounds in Mexico, are from the Midwest. So about 40% of them come from this middle part of the United States in that dark green area, and other portions are less than about 20%. And so how does the monarch actually migrate? How does it know to go to this really small area in Mexico? And this has been this mystery for many, many years. And there was a researcher named Fred Urquhart, who was this scientist who just loved monarchs. And back in the 60s and so forth, 50s, 60s, nobody actually knew where the monarchs were going. So he was on this mission, and eventually he was able to find this place. And he was able to do that because he talked to locals and so forth in Mexico. But I'll just talk a little bit about how the monarch actually does this. So they use a sun compass, and they have migration cues. So the monarch uses the sun's azimuth, or the horizontal position, as their primary directional cue. So they need to fly south. And the way they do that is through this basically this compass. And it's time compensated. And so their brain can guide them both in the fall, southward, and the spring, northward. They rely also on their circadian clock. So they know what time of day it is in terms of their body's circadian clock. And then they can adjust for the sun moving from the east to the west across the sky. And then the cold temperatures in Mexico at their overwintering sites triggers a shift in their orientation, and then initiates the northward spring migration when it gets warmer, and that's how they're able to start to move back north. Now, it's a little bit complicated, and I won't go into too much detail, but they have the sun compass that I just mentioned that they use. So they use the sun. But then the question becomes, well, what if it's cloudy? How do they actually figure out where they're going if it's like, not sunny all the time? And then, so what they do is they have another system, which is really cool. They have a system in which they can detect the Earth's magnetic field. And this allows them to fly south too. So they use this combination of the sun compass and this Earth's magnetic field in order to fly south. And that's how they can do this. So there was this really interesting article that some of you may have read in the New York Times that came out. It's gotten a lot of popularity, a lot of press in the last couple of weeks. Some scientists just figured out were able to track more carefully how these monarchs are flying. And what they did was they built these small radio trackers, and they were able to put them on monarchs, and they released them from around the United States, and they tried to track how far they're going and how fast they're going. And this is just a quick map from the New York Times article, but these numbers are different individuals, and you can kind of see how they're actually going. And they were able to track the movement of this butterfly. And it's an incredible article. You should take a look if you haven't seen this. But what this is showing is that there's all these different paths. Some of them actually do go to Florida. Others kind of take a little windy road or windy path, but they all kind of eventually end up in Mexico. If you want to find out more about this, there is a new app now called Project Monarch. You can download it, and this allows you to track these monarch butterflies. And you can even buy the actual little receiver that you can put on the monarch, and it's worth, I think, about $200 or a little bit less than $200. So individuals can now purchase this, and you can actually do this whole process and actually see where your monarch goes. So it's a very cool new thing that's been developed. So we might actually see some monarchs with the tags on it. That would be very, very interesting. Anyway, regarding the actual trip itself, in day one, we fly to Mexico City. Um, and we stay in a very nice hotel. So I'll just say that I've done this twice now, and the last time was 2 years ago, and I went with my daughter, who was 8 years old at the time. There was another child on the trip too, and his mother. It's amazing, amazing trip. It's really, really incredible. And the hotel that you stay in is a very nice hotel. Holbrook really takes care of you. I was very impressed getting off of the plane. They take you into a vehicle, and then everything is just really, really like well done. So there, from my perspective, it's really no problem at all. I really had a great time. But anyway, in terms of the actual trip, we land in Mexico City. We spend a night there at a very nice hotel, and then we take this trip the following day by bus. And it's about 3 hour drive to Angangeo, which is a small town in the mountains of Mexico, just west of Mexico City. So this is just a picture of the hotel that is in Angangeo called Don Bruno Hotel. And you can see like near the hotel on the street posts and stuff like that, there's all these butterflies that are decorating it. The hotel itself looks something like this. This is a very basic hotel, and this is a small town in the middle of the mountains, so you're not going to get your 5-star hotel because it simply does not exist. This is one of the best hotels. Holbrook does an excellent job. They've reserved all the rooms for us and everything, and this is our base point in Ireland. This is a photo of Chase Kimmel, is a former postdoc, drinking a Negro Modelo. So there's a lot of opportunity to relax and have a good time. The area is really beautiful. You can see the sun hitting the hotel. This is Jarrett Daniels on a former trip. So during our free time, we will have little lectures and things like that where we will be talking about monarch butterflies, their life history, and answering questions if you have any. And then the following day, we will get on a bus. And this is the bus, a bus like this will take us to one of the actual breeding ground sites. So this is kind of what it looks like when we arrive at one of the first sites. We'll have a local guide as well as us, and I think there'll be another 2 guides, I believe, and they speak Spanish and English, and it's a great experience, and they're very very knowledgeable of the area, and the whole process is very safe. There's also the opportunity to hike or take a horse or a donkey. And my daughter and I did this like a few years ago when we went. She loved it. She still talks about this, and this was like one of the best parts of it. It's a very, very slow paced walk, and there's a guide that's holding the rope for each horse. So everybody, is being guided individually, and it's great. The views are incredible, and if it's sunny, it's even better. It's warm. It's wonderful. And as you get closer and closer to the site, you'll start to see monarchs. So this is a picture of just like an open area, and there's a little bit of water trickling down. But because it's kind of dry up there, wherever there's water, there's butterflies. So you kind of can see some of the butterflies in this picture. But then you look up, and as you get closer, you start to see these clusters of butterflies. It's absolutely incredible. The trees get covered by butterflies. And in some cases, the trees are so heavily weighted down that they're just kind of like drooping down. And you can't even see the green on the trees because it's just so butterfly covered. And this is kind of what the area looks like. You'll often see butterflies up close, on flowers, resting. And when the sun hits, they open their wings. This is Kaya, my daughter, and she was taking pictures. She loved it. It was so great. And we still look at these pictures, and she really wanted to go on this trip next year, but unfortunately she's got school and other things going on. You'll occasionally see butterflies mating. So there's a monarch, a male and a female mating in that picture on the left. There's other insects as well. This is a day-flying moth that I took a picture of. See all kinds of things like that as well. The town of Angangeo has a main square. This is the photo of the square with the sort of the letters for the city or for the town, and people take pictures. There's a big monarch decoration there where people take photos in front of. And we'll have time to walk around a little bit. It's a beautiful town. I really, really like this town because it's just so interesting because the whole town has been sort of captured by the monarchs, right? And there's all these murals everywhere. This one has a picture of the sun and the monarchs are coming out of it. It's just like everybody knows about monarchs there, and the whole town exists because of the monarch butterfly. This is a photo of the church and kind of the buildings in that area. It's a mountainous area. And then the following day, we'll go to another site, and this is called the sanctuario or the sanctuary. And we'll go there, and oftentimes there'll be folks selling walking sticks and things like that. And these, the people there are supported by the monarchs, and this is the only time of the year when they can make money to support the families and so forth. So we'll have a little time to buy some artisanal crafts and stuff like that. Here's a picture of a store on the left that's selling some bowls and some handmade things. There's a lot of these kinds of things that are really beautifully done, and we'll have a lot of time to do that. The World Wildlife Federation and other foundations support a lot of the activity that goes on in this area. Because they realize how important this site is for the monarch butterfly. This is just a garden of plants that are being grown to support butterflies in the area. So there's certain plants that the monarchs like, and they're trying to regrow them in order to support the population there. Here's just some photos again, but it's just really remarkable. I mean, you can see the bark of the tree is almost completely orange from all the butterflies that are flying around. Ground looks like this. You can barely walk without stepping on one. Now here's a video that I took. Let's see if this plays. But it's really amazing. I mean, all you hear are, I mean, you might hear some birds, but that's about it. And the birds and the fluttering wings of butterflies, but that's really all you hear. It's really, really an incredible experience. I've loved butterflies for my whole life, but going to this place was just a true dream come true. I've never seen so many butterflies in a single place in my entire life. And every time I go back, it's extraordinary. So I would just say that like this to me is something that everybody should see at least once because it's very, very unique. There's no other place in the world like this. Yeah, and butterflies land on your hat, all kinds of just kind of all over the place. There's Jarrett on the left with the butterfly in his hat. They'll land on your body. And so anyway, that's a little bit of background about the monarch butterfly. And I'll just say a few things about what's going on right now in terms of the science of monarchs and conservation. And perhaps Vaughn can chime in too later with questions and help answer some questions related to this. So despite being one of the most studied insects in the world, there's still a lot of things that we don't know about monarch butterflies, particularly regarding the process of what's causing these dynamics of these monarchs to change and the conservation efforts and how humans interact with butterflies and how the human activities are influencing these populations. So here's just a graph that shows kind of what's going on in terms of the area occupied by monarch colonies. So this is the site in Mexico, and the scientists measured approximately how many hectares or area or space in which the butterflies are occupying. So there's clusters of butterflies that you saw in those trees. They said, okay, roughly how much space has been occupied by butterflies? So back in the 1990s, 1996, for example, there was about 18.19 hectares. This is a very large number of space that was being occupied by these monarchs. But now, as you can see, the trend has gone down. When we went, it was only 0.9, which is like one of the worst situations. So the numbers do fluctuate, but they are definitely trending lower, which is a big concern. So there have been scientific studies that are being published now where people are trying to understand what's going on and how we can protect them. This is just a quick summary, but in the 1990s, winter monarch populations in Mexico were in the hundreds of millions of butterflies. Now, typically populations are less than 60 million, and last winter in 2024 was about 38 million. That sounds like a large number, 38 million butterflies, but relatively speaking, it's not anymore. And this is just remember, like all of the Eastern North American butterflies are going to one little space. And so, this is a very important conservation area, and the numbers declining is a very big conservation concern. The West Coast population is even more concerning. Only 10,000 were observed in California in the coast in 2024. This is a very important study that came out in the journal Science. So as scientists, this is like the top journal, the top scientific journal in which people, scientists publish. And what they did was they looked at individual butterflies and they counted them, and they saw this general trend. This is all butterflies, but they're generally trending downwards, not just monarchs, but all butterflies are kind of going downhill. So this is something to be definitely concerned about, and monarchs are one of them. So there was a formal petition in 2014 to list the monarch as threatened or endangered under the US Endangered Species Act. And in 2016, the same kind of recommendation was done for Canada as well. So the monarch is now listed as an endangered or concerning species. And the loss of the breeding habitat is considered one of the primary causes of this decline. And so this is where a lot of the conservation focus has been. Jarrett Daniels in his lab has been focusing on these empty green spaces. So like lawns, for example, which we know are a real problem because it's empty space that insects cannot use very well. So he's been doing these activities in which he's trying to regrow the roadsides in Florida. So this is just a photo from one of the roads around Gainesville. But what you see is that replanting can be done. You can plant flowers, you can plant milkweed. So he has this really amazing process where he's going out and planting all these monarch plants, right? These plants like milkweed that the larva likes, and also the flowers that the butterfly likes. And he's created this map that shows where they're targeting to plant these milkweed plants along roadsides. And it's been helping. They're actually increasing the number of butterflies. So you can do these kinds of activities. So planting local milkweed, planting pollinators, plants that are nectar sources, very, very important. And overall, there's a lot of nationwide activities going on now to help protect and do other activities to help save the monarch. Here's just some photos of folks planting milkweed and other plants that are important for monarchs. So you can plant native milkweed, you can feed the migration, meaning feed nectar-producing plants, and enjoy watching wild monarchs instead of rearing indoors. So a lot of people rear them indoors, that's great, but we should be going out and helping the monarchs that are outdoors. Share your monarch sightings with community scientists. So there's apps that are out there, such as iNaturalist. Take a photo and upload it, because we as scientists use that information and it's very valuable. It tells us where the monarch is, was at the time, and we need this kind of information so you can directly help. We have these pamphlets and outreach documents that we create at the museum that we make available. So if any of you are interested, please let us know and we can send them to you. Finally, I'll just say that on the last day, on our way back to Mexico City, we make a brief stop. And so this is also in the plan. We will be visiting some local Mayan sites. And the monarch butterfly is a symbol of transformation, of the soul and rebirth in Mayan culture. And so you'll start, we're going to kind of see some of these butterflies in a very different light as well. In fact, in the Mexican currency, the 50 peso bill actually has monarch butterflies on it too. So you see monarchs kind of all over the place in Mexico. And we're trying to make this trip not just about seeing the monarch butterfly, but kind of understanding the monarch in the Mexican culture. So again, this is just a little bit of background about the dates for the trips. The first trip is 7th, 12th. The second trip is from the 14th to 19th. The support that you make to this, to the trips, if you participate, not only supports Holbrook, but it also supports the McGuire Center and what we do. So we really would love to fill up the trips so that we can go and you can directly help the conservation of these butterflies. So I think that's all I have. I I kind of went pretty quickly. I don't know if you got everything that I said, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Um, I will really quickly go ahead and put the links for those two trips in the chat as well. So if anybody would like uh, more information about those, I'll put those in the chat. And then we also will have information about that at the end of the presentation as well. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So let's see here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, so at this point, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. As I mentioned earlier, we're also joined by Lisa Palmisi-Grabar. Lisa's been with Holbrook Travel for more than 30 years, and in her role as an educational travel specialist, she's helped organize hundreds of trips to destinations all over the world, but in particular, she's been a key figure in helping to grow these Monarch trips into what they are today. So welcome, Lisa. And so if you have any questions about the trips or about the Monarchs, I'll be happy to share those with our panelists. So I know some of you already submitted questions through the Q&A when you registered, so I will go ahead and start sharing some of those. One question that we got was about the particular habitat, and I think referring to the Oyamel forests in Mexico, and why is that so attractive to monarch butterflies? And I'll direct that to you, Akito or Vaughn.
I can take it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's thought that similar to Florida and some of these other places that the monarch does overwinter, that the microclimate, or so the very small scale weather patterns of that site are going to be really critical for allowing them to live, right? Insects don't love cold weather, they don't like snow, so they're going to be just warm enough for them to live there, but also cold enough so that they don't burn through their fat reserves, right? So they only have a limited amount of energy. And so you don't want it too hot. It's kind of like a Goldilocks area for them to rest over winter and then eventually make that northward migration in the spring.
Okay, thank you. And then kind of on a related note, we had someone ask, how has the decline in monarch population impacted those sites? Has it impacted those sites?
Yeah, so since 1970, when the first census was taken, we've seen a decline of about 80% of the population in the Mexican overwintering sites, so quite dramatic. Year-to-year variability is quite high, although as Akito showed, there has been this general decline, especially in the last 2 decades. And so one of the challenges and also opportunities for studying monarchs is they cover a vast amount of sort of area during their sort of migration cycle. And so we're still trying to pinpoint what exactly causes declines in the Mexican overwintering ground because they encounter so many different stressors across that migration cycle. But yes, there has been a decline of about 80% since 1970.
Okay, okay. And we have someone in the chat asking, are there any differences between Sierra Chinqua and El Rosario? Those are two of the monarch sites that are in this area. I'm not sure if the question is in reference to populations or just in general, but can you talk a little bit about what the difference between the two sites are?
Yeah, I can take that one. I mean, so every year the sites kind of vary. So we're gonna kind of be following the monarchs, So one year it may be in one area, another year it might be slightly different. We're gonna go to the two sites because these are the sites where they're typically seen, and they should be there next year as well. They're slightly different in terms of the again, as Vaughn mentioned, the microclimate is slightly different. The sort of the trail is slightly different. That there's differences, but it's not significant. We don't exactly know why they're in that place, but we believe it's the microclimates that are causing the butterflies to be in these areas.
Okay. And to your point about microclimates, has the average temperature in Mexico near these sites changed in recent years?
Vaughn, you want to take it?
Yeah. So there has definitely been a general increase in temperature in recent years. And so what ends up happening is we get this shift, right? So you can imagine it's kind of like a swimming pool where the water is rising, right? And so the water represents the area where the butterflies can't overwinter. And so as the temperatures at the lower elevations rise, the butterflies have to move up in elevation to be able to overwinter. And so what you tend to see is like a loss of the total area that they can occupy because there's just less area towards the top of a triangle, more or less, which is the mountain. And so, yeah, there is some of that impacting them in Mexico as well.
Okay. I'm seeing some questions from several different questions from people who are interested in conservation and things that they can do themselves. So, for example, one person is asking if I plant a mass of milkweed, but no one else does in my neighborhood, where do the butterflies then go?
Yeah, great question. So I always recommend planting milkweed. So even if you are the only person in your neighborhood to do so, I recommend doing so. It is very likely that you will start to see an abundance of monarchs in your yard when you do that, right? These things kind of have a knack for finding milkweed wherever it is. And even though you might think that your yard is quite small, butterflies are pretty good at being able to find their host plants. And so even planting a small scale, maybe your whole neighborhood is not doing it, you're likely to attract monarchs.
Okay. We have someone else who says they live in Arizona and the monarchs that come through seem to like the tropical milkweed more than the native milkweed. Can you offer an explanation for that? And then also, is it legal to raise a chrysalis in your house?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So it depends on what state you live in, actually, now. So in California, it is not legal. So that law was recently passed. But to your point about tropical milkweed, yes, although there are some debate on whether or not tropical milkweed is actually beneficial or harmful to monarchs in the long term. And the reason for that is because tropical milkweed, as the name suggests, is tropical. So it's generally green year round. And monarchs have this very specific parasite that it's thought can build up on the tropical milkweed over the winter and that actually contribute to higher parasite loads in monarchs. So it's a very active area of research right now. And I always recommend planting native milkweed plants when you can, because you're going to get that winter dieback. It can reduce some of that parasite load in the following year.
I see. Okay. And then similar, well, so the question about if it's legal to raise, but somebody else also asked, do the butterflies have a better chance of making it if you bring the caterpillar? I'm assuming if you see a caterpillar outside or a chrysalis outside and bring it inside to hatch it, does that give them a better chance at survival?
Yeah, so that's also, I would say, a pretty hot area of debate right now. And there's sort of two sides to that coin. In the wild, the survival of any given caterpillar is actually quite low. So most caterpillars don't make it to adulthood, and that's just a fact of nature. But in rearing something totally indoors, you also sort of expose it to a different microclimate or an indoor microclimate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's then released outside, it doesn't have this sort of barometer or this temperature check on what the outside might be like, right? And so a lot of really important things are happening when a butterfly or a moth is a caterpillar. And one of those things is actually, um, sort of a determination of what the adult butterfly or moth is going to look like, right? So you can imagine, like, if the caterpillar is sensing that it's quite cold, maybe that butterfly should be a little bit fuzzier or should have more black to absorb solar radiation, right? And so raising indoors can kind of disrupt that signaling a little bit. But I do support, raising outdoors. It's easy enough to tie like a little, mesh bag around, a milkweed plant so that nothing comes and tries to attack the caterpillar. And I always encourage, people getting up close and actually looking at the stages of doing a rearing, because there's nothing that sort of substitutes that educational and sort of magical opportunity too.
That's some really good information. Thank you. We have a few questions, I think, kind of about timing of the migration. Obviously, the two trips that you're leading are in February. What is considered kind of peak season in these forests? We have some people traveling, looks like in late January. So what is kind of the range there of peak season?
Yeah, so I probably defer to Akito or Lisa because you guys have sort of seen the seasons ebb and flow a little bit there.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vaughn. So I've been there in February 2 years ago, and I also been there in December. And so, December is very early, but there were butterflies already there. So it definitely peaks and these trips are kind of uh, arranged in a way that we go towards the peak time. But if you go in late January, you're still going to see a lot of butterflies. There's no question about this. It's just maybe you won't see like all of them, but you will see a very large number. Even in December, you'll see them. Even in March, you'll see them. But it does dwindle off, as you go further away from that peak point.
Okay, good to know. Let's see. We do also have some questions kind of more about the trip in general, and Lisa, I might direct some of these to you.
Okay.
Let's see. We have some questions about the elevation of the monarch sites in the mountains. Are you able to speak to that? What's the elevation like there?
Well, it changes daily. It changes by season. You could come one day and they might be lower and a 10-minute walk, or, the next day they might be a 30-minute walk. We have looked at elevations of up to 10,000 to 11,000 feet. That being said, it doesn't mean that when you go, that's how far you're going to go. I mean, that's in extreme cases when they're higher up. But they move constantly. And I've been a couple of times, and, there are different areas, and it does change daily based on where they are, and sometimes on the weather. If it's warmer out, you may not have to go as far, but we say be prepared if, it can be up to 10,000 or so feet.
Okay, so the populations aren't necessarily static. They may be kind of moving up and down in elevation depending on the conditions at any given time.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no set pattern of every day. It could be different. Yeah, maybe even by hours, just depending on where they are. And if it's cold, they'll be clustered. And then when the sun peeks out, they start flying, and it's magical.
Mm-hmm. We have a few questions about the physical requirements of the trip. We have one person who says, I've heard there's a long uphill walk to one of the sites. Somebody else asks, I've heard the trail to the site is very rugged. How manageable is it for a senior with knee issues? How would you describe, Lisa, the trail conditions, and what can people expect in terms of kind of activity level and how rugged it is?
Well, it is going to be an incline. So you do need to be able to walk uphill. That being said, you're not walking up the side of the mountain. We do vet the trails each day. And if it looks like the monarchs are in a specific place that's going to be a harder walk, we, let people know and try to find, work with the local guides to find another location. But generally, if someone can walk, up to 2 miles, which it may not be 2 miles, it again depends on location, and taking the horse partially up, the horses will take you through the rougher part, the more rocky inclined area. Once you get off the horses at the edge of the forest, then you'll do some walking. But as I always tell people, it's at your own pace. It's not where you're having to keep up with Akito or Vaughn, and you can stop. It's a closed trail. It's marked off, and you can stop and catch your breath or take pictures at any point. And I had, someone in their 80s on my trip. A lot of times people are in their 70s. I, recommend they start walking in advance and maybe get used to steps just in case. But it's not going to be overly difficult. Akito has been there not that long ago. I've had different experiences, but I've never had one that I felt was too difficult, and the at your own pace really helps people. You don't have that pressure to keep up and walk fast. And a lot of times you can also hire, we can get one of the local people who can assist and carry your bag or something for you. And there's also walking sticks that they sell for about $1. Those help if you want to stop and take a break. But everyone needs to decide for themselves, whether they can handle that. But I wouldn't say it's rough. It's walking, and it can be at an incline. And Akito might have, a different experience from his last trip.
I'll just say that, yeah, it was, first of all, I'm not super fast walker. I'm actually pretty slow. I like to look at things while I walk, so I get kind of distracted by obviously the butterflies, but other insects and things. So my plan is not to jet up there or anything like that. We're going to go very slowly. And, the last time I went with my daughter, she's not a very fast walker. We just kind of went very slowly. And the horses too are super helpful, but that pace is also very, very slow. And the guides will help you get on the horse. There's an actual like a mount station, so you don't actually, like, if I remember correctly, there's like a setup. So
you walk up the steps, and get on
like
a platform.
Setup for it.
Yes.
You get on a platform. It's pretty straightforward, and the pace was very slow. And once we get closer to the site, it's just like waiting. Like you're just kind of waiting oftentimes for the sun to come out, or something to happen, and then the butterflies start to come out, and then it's just like Lisa said, it's mad. It really is a magical experience. And there's no roads up there, because if there were roads, then there wouldn't be monarchs, right? So I think it's not as strenuous as some people might think.
Okay. And I do see a comment here that one of the links or the links in the chat may not be working. So I'm working on trying to get an updated link in the chat. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Going back to the activity level again, somebody else also asked, how far is the hike? Obviously, going back to what you said earlier, Lisa, that may depend based on where the population is at any given day. But is there a range that you can give people of how far they might be hiking?
The first time I went, we walked maybe about 30 minutes. I, stayed in the back with some of the slower people. They stopped and took breaks. The last time I went, it was like a 15-minute walk because they were in a totally different area. So if you can say maybe 30, 45 minutes, but that may not be the case. So we always prepare you for the worst. And then when you get there, it's usually so much easier. But if you mentally are prepared to do the longer walk, and then you get there and it's shorter, then that's a bonus. But you can expect maybe 30 to 45 minutes, just depending on. Now, Sierra Chinqua might be a little different. Someone asked the difference between the two. El Rosario is where you are going to get most of the butterflies. And that's where a lot of those beautiful pictures are from. For some reason, El Rosario just has more monarchs every year. Sierra Chinqua is your first stop, so you're still going to be really excited and happy because they're beautiful, but you're going to end at El Rosario and just have this amazing experience. But I will also mention that at El Rosario, the trails are very well maintained. They're smooth. The community takes so much pride in taking care of it, and they're always on the trails. So it's very nice and smooth and easygoing. Sierra Chinqua might be a little rougher. There's some rocks that you might have to walk around. And that walk could be about 30 or 40 minutes. So that one is the one that you do first, but there's always someone there to help also.
Okay, that's good to know. We received a question from somebody who, when they registered, and this is a question that I know we get a lot, is how safe is this itinerary, and what are the State Department advisories for this area? Lisa, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I have worked on this trip for the last 10 years. When Dr. Emmel came back and said, I need help with this. It's just becoming a lot for him to handle with his research. So, I always leaned on his expertise, and he'd been going there over 20 years without incident. So the State Department does have the state of Michoacan as a level 4, which isn't a pretty number. And that is based on certain areas and towns within that very large state where there have been issues and incidents. I try to equate it to, New York City may have a level 4, but, if you're somewhere in Georgia, it's different. So it's just going to be isolated areas. We stay on the main highways. We use the same routes every time we're traveling between Angangueo and Mexico City. So, we always check everything out in advance. Once you get into Angangueo, you would never feel, anything to do with even a level 1. It's just so peaceful and quiet. The community takes pride in their town. The sanctuaries are run by different communities, whether it be Sierra Chinqua or El Rosario. Those communities are very protective. They keep an eye out. They're very friendly and protective of visitors, and you would not feel like there's any issues. The last time I went on my own just to get a feel as a single woman traveling. I, had no concerns, no issues. The only thing I would say is in Mexico City, watch your belongings like you would in any city. But once you get out into the other areas in the sanctuaries, I have no hesitation going back at the drop of a hat and taking my child with me. And, Akito took his daughter, and, he's actually going back and leading a trip for the museum. So I think that also speaks volumes. People have to make up a decision and to do what they're comfortable with. But I also know that Holbrook, we're very invested in the safety of our travelers and the communities that we visit, and our experience with this area has been nothing but good. And we have people in Mexico, in Angangueo, that we keep a pulse with. So we are just not blindly sending people down. And the State Department warning, I will say, that it's been a level 4 for many years now. This is not a new incident. They've reassessed it. It's more dangerous. That has been put into place probably at least 2020. So it's a long-standing rating. And I'm happy offline or, on the phone to talk to anyone that has specific questions about it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That's a good point too. We'll make sure to share that information so that people can contact you for questions. Okay, we've got about 5 more minutes. I know that the links are still not working. I'm working on troubleshooting that, but if we can't get them into this chat, we'll be sure to send them out after the recording or after the presentation is over. Let's see, just looking through here, maybe 1 or 2 more questions before we wrap up. We have a comment from someone who said Anderson Cooper did a recent 60-minute piece on the colonies. It was amazing. I'm sure you can find it online. I think maybe Akito, you may have touched on that earlier. And we'll see if we can maybe find a link to that to share with people when we send out the recording link as well. Let's see, there are a few questions. Let's see, where did it go? There are a few questions about group size for the trips, as far as the number of people. Obviously, that may depend on various factors, but is there a range that that you might have, Lisa, that you can share?
The range is usually around 14 to 16. Occasionally, we have research assistants and other people join. I think last year we ended up with 18 people, but then we also added another guide, a naturalist guide, so that the group does not all have to be together. You know, you can break up the different activities. And once you get into the sanctuary, there are going to be other people in the public areas. So having the two guides and having the museum staff helps us, you know, worry about too many people not getting answers. So there's always, we adapt. If we were to add more people, research assistants or, you know, researchers, sometimes we have a photographer that wants to join. But right now we're looking at 14 to 16 people with the museum Lepidopteris, and also there's going to be on each trip a naturalist guide from Mexico that's familiar with the area.
Okay, thank you. I see we have a few more questions. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to get to these last few questions. I know we're close on time, but I will share these with you, Lisa, and maybe we can follow up individually.
I will follow up with every question. I'm happy to answer. If we don't have time to get to them, you can call me, email me. Lindsay will send me the questions. I do want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. If I can't answer it and it's a question for Vaughn or Akito, I will reach out to them. We definitely want to make sure that you have all the information you need, especially if it's about monarch conservation, you know, how you can help, things like that. We really want to make sure that you're prepared to help with conservation or to go on the trip, whichever. I'm happy to help with anything.
Thank you, Lisa. And Akito shared in the chat the link to the Anderson Cooper video clip as well. So you should be able to see it there, and we'll send that out as well. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. As we mentioned earlier, the webinar has been recorded, and we'll be sending out a link in the next couple of days. The webinar recording will also be available on our YouTube channel, on Holbrook's YouTube channel, and on the Holbrook website, where you can find recordings of all of our past webinars. If you're interested in learning more about the trips we discussed today, we're still having issues with the links, so I'm not sure if the QR codes are going to be working, but we'll be sending out those links to everybody who registered. Or you can go to the Holbrook website and search for them under the Trip to Join tab at the top. As Lisa mentioned, you can reach out to her directly with any questions that you have. Her email address is lisa@holbrooktravel.com. I'm going to put that in the chat here as well.
Happy to help. I also wanted to say that Akito mentioned some materials that the museum, the McGuire Center, has put together. If anyone is interested in receiving copies of those, you can let me know and I will coordinate that you get those as well.
Thanks, Lisa. That would be great. So thank you again to our guests, Akito and Vaughn. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. And to everyone who joined us for the presentation, thank you as well. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.